Welcome to another MidVarsity Deep Dive. Today, we're really going to go deep into peritoneal dialysis,
PD.
PD, as it's also called. Now, our listeners know dialysis, but PD, I think, offers a really unique approach to kidney replacement therapy.
It does, yeah.
So I'm really interested to hear more about it.
Yeah. It's really interesting how it uses the body's own anatomy in a way that we don't really think about. The peritoneal membrane, that lining of your abdomen, actually acts as the filtration system.
Okay. See, that's intriguing, but I have to admit, it's a little hard to picture. I mean, how does using your own membrane work to clean the blood?
Well, you can think of it like this. Your peritoneal cavity, which is the space around your intestines, it's filled with dialysis fluid. And the waste products in your blood naturally move across the peritoneal membrane into that fluid.
Oh, okay.
And after a certain amount of time, the fluid, which is now carrying the waste products, is drained out.
So it's like instead of having a machine, your body is the machine.
Exactly, like an internal filter that continuously cleanses your blood. And what's even cooler is that there are a few different ways to do PD, each with its own advantages.
Now that you mention it, I have heard about different types of PD. Can you walk me through those? Like, I'm especially curious about how those various methods might impact a patient's daily life.
Sure, so one common type is continuous ambulatory peritoneal dialysis, or CAPD.
Yeah, CAPD.
And in this method, exchanges of the dialysis fluid are done manually throughout the day, relying on gravity.
So a person would be incorporating these exchanges into their regular routine.
Yeah.
I imagine that takes quite a lot of organization and commitment.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why patient training is super important for anyone considering CAPD. They need to learn the process, of course, but they also need to understand how important it is to be sterile to prevent infections.
Right.
We're talking about introducing fluid into the body several times a day, so hygiene and meticulous care are very important.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, are there other PD options that might be less demanding on a person's time? I mean, not requiring those manual exchanges throughout the day.
Yeah, you're right. CAPD can be demanding. There's another type called automated peritoneal dialysis, or APD.
Okay.
Sometimes it's called cyclical peritoneal dialysis, or CCPD.
Okay.
But as the name suggests, this one uses a machine to cycle the fluid exchanges automatically, usually at night.
So a person could sleep through their dialysis.
Yeah, it can be a game changer for a lot of people. It lets them keep a more typical daily routine. Although, access to this technology isn't universal. In some regions, like India, CAPD is still more common because of the cost and availability of the equipment.
That's a good point. It's healthcare equity is an important topic.
Mhm.
But let's go back to patient training, especially for CAPD. Are there specific challenges you've encountered?
Yeah, definitely. Every individual is different, but training elderly patients in particular can be challenging. They might have issues with dexterity or cognitive limitations that make it harder for them to learn and do the procedures.
I see.
Yeah,
So flexible and personalized approaches to training are really crucial.
totally. It's about empowering each patient to safely and confidently manage their own care. And that means tailoring the teaching to their individual needs. Patient confidence and understanding are key to long-term success.
I agree. Now, we've talked about the importance of sterility during these exchanges. Are there other factors that can influence how well a person responds to PD?
Yeah, it's not just about technique. The individual's own physiology has a big impact. Like the peritoneal membrane itself, how efficient it is varies. Some people just have membranes that are better suited for PD, allowing for better waste removal.
So some people just have better filters, basically. That's fascinating. What other individual factors come into play?
Another important one is something called residual renal function. This means how much urine a person on dialysis still produces.
Oh, okay.
Even when kidneys are failing, they might still have some function.
Okay.
And this can have a big impact. Those with higher residual renal function tend to have better survival rates on PD.
Wow, that's a great point. I bet that's good news for patients.
Yeah.
So how does PD compare to hemodialysis? We've talked about the lifestyle differences, but are there any notable differences in terms of effectiveness?
Well, in the first year or two, studies show that PD actually has better outcomes than hemodialysis.
Wow.
Yeah. But long term, the benefits of both tend to even out.
So both are good options, but it depends on the individual and their needs.
Exactly. And no matter which one a patient chooses, we can measure how well dialysis is working. One way is the KTV formula. It assesses dialysis adequacy, how well waste products are being removed.
And what would a good KTV number mean for a patient's health and treatment plan?
Well, a good KTV means that the dialysis is working well, helping to keep the patient healthy and prevent complications. It lets doctors tailor the treatment to the individual, making sure they're getting the right amount of dialysis.
That's amazing. We've learned so much already about how PD works, the training, the individual factors, residual renal function. But I feel like we're just getting started. What else can we learn about this world of PD?
As we go deeper with this, what I find really fascinating is the level of patient involvement in PD. It's not a passive treatment, it really becomes part of their lives.
Yeah, it sounds like it requires a real shift in mindset
Mm.
to become like an active participant in your own care.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to the importance of patient training. We talked about the technical stuff, but there's a psychological component too. It's a big change to become responsible for your own health.
Yeah, we can imagine. What kind of challenges might that bring?
Well, with PD, you're doing the exchanges, watching for any problems, basically becoming your own health advocate. For some people, that can be empowering, but for others, it's overwhelming, even a little scary.
Right. So it's about striking a balance, giving patients the tools and confidence to manage their care, but also making sure they feel supported.
Definitely. And that's where healthcare providers are so important. Providing education, encouragement, being a strong support system. It's a real partnership between the patient and their medical team.
A partnership built on trust and communication. Are there certain types of patients who you've seen do really well with PD who thrive with this approach?
Yeah, definitely. It varies from person to person, but some groups tend to do better. For example, those who really value their independence and flexibility often love the freedom that PD offers.
I can see that, being able to do your treatment at home on your own schedule.
Exactly. And for people who have trouble getting to a dialysis center, whether it's because of distance, mobility issues, or other things, PD can be much easier to manage.
So it opens up options for people who might not have access to consistent care otherwise. And I imagine that this home-based aspect is especially beneficial for younger patients.
You're right. For kids and teenagers, PD lets them keep going to school, doing the things they enjoy, without being tied to a machine.
Keeping a sense of normalcy is so important for them.
Absolutely. And it's a huge benefit for their families, too. Less travel, less disruption to their routines. PD really affects everyone involved, not just the patient.
That's a really important point. We've been focusing on the positives, the empowerment that PD can bring. But what about the other side of it, the emotional and social challenges people might face?
Well, any chronic condition, like kidney failure, is tough to manage, no matter the treatment. But PD definitely has its own unique stresses.
What are some of those? What have you seen in your work with patients?
Having to constantly be on alert for infection can be really draining. You have to be so careful, so attentive. And then there's the catheter and the exchanges, which can affect how people feel about their bodies, especially younger patients.
Those are important things to think about, things that might not be obvious right away.
And the social impact is real. Some people feel awkward about doing their exchanges in public, they worry about leaks or other issues. Addressing these needs, the psychosocial side of things, is just as important as the medical care.
I agree. It needs to be a whole person approach, considering the emotional and social well-being of the patient.
Exactly. Support groups, counseling, open communication with their care team, all of that can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Creating that space for open and honest conversations is so important. Now let's talk about technology. What's coming up in the world of PD that could make it even better, even more accessible?
There's so much exciting research going on right now. One area is developing better dialysis fluids, more biocompatible.
Oh, interesting. And what's special about those?
These new fluids are designed to be gentler on the peritoneal membrane, so they can reduce the risk of complications and hopefully lead to better results in the long run.
That would make a huge difference in someone's life. What other kinds of innovations are we seeing?
Another really cool area is the development of wearable devices. They can actually monitor how well dialysis is working in real time.
Wow, that sounds futuristic. What would that look like?
You could have a tiny sensor that tracks the removal of waste products from your blood, giving you constant updates, and even adjusting the treatment as needed.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
much more personalized and efficient and less intrusive, too.
Anything else on the horizon for PD technology?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Researchers are always working on better catheter designs, things that would be more comfortable, less likely to get infected, and last longer.
It's all about refining the process, making it as user-friendly as possible. What a fascinating look into the future of PD.
It really is. And all of these advancements are aimed at improving the quality of life for people with kidney failure, giving them more choices and more control over their health.
That's fantastic. Before we move on from this deep dive, I have one last question.
I'm listening.
What role do you see patient advocacy playing in all of this? I imagine those personal stories, real-life experiences can really drive progress. You're absolutely right. Patient advocates are so powerful. They raise awareness, share their stories, and push for policies that support access to quality care. They're essential for getting research funding and making sure the patient's voice is heard.
So it's not just about the science, it's about the human element too. Patients being active in shaping their own care.
Exactly. And when patients, healthcare providers, and researchers all work together, we create a better, more caring, and more innovative healthcare system for everyone.
Wow. We've really covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into PD, everything from the basics of how it works to all the new advancements coming up. I kind of want to take a step back now and look at the big picture. Like, what does the rise of PD tell us about kidney care in general and where it's headed?
That's a really interesting question. I think it shows a big trend in healthcare, this move towards patients being more involved in their own care. Like we talked about with PD, there's a lot of emphasis on training and responsibility.
Right? And technology seems to be a big part of making that happen. What do you think about this whole idea of patient empowerment? What does it mean for the future?
Well, I think it's changing the way patients and doctors interact. It used to be that doctors made all the decisions, but now it's more of a collaboration.
So it's about seeing the patient as an expert in their own experience.
Yeah.
Right? Getting them involved in the decisions about their care.
Exactly. And it's happening because people have more access to information and technology. They can research their options, advocate for themselves more than ever before.
It's definitely an exciting time to be in healthcare.
Yeah.
How do you see this impacting kidney care specifically?
Well, I think we'll see even more personalized approaches to care focused on what the patient wants and needs, like PD, those home-based therapies that give people more flexibility and control. I think those will keep growing in popularity.
And with the technology improving, like those biocompatible fluids and wearable monitors we talked about, it seems like things are only going to get better.
Definitely. Just imagine a future where AI could help us predict complications or adjust treatments in real time based on each person's individual needs.
That would be amazing.
Mm.
So as technology keeps advancing, what do you see as the role of healthcare professionals in this new world of kidney care?
Their role will change, of course, but it's still going to be so important. I think they'll become more like guides, partners, helping patients understand all the options and make informed decisions.
Right. So technology isn't replacing doctors or nurses. It's giving them better tools to provide really compassionate, individualized care.
Exactly. And it all comes back to education and communication. Those are the keys.
I agree. Educating patients about their choices, encouraging them to ask questions, having real conversations, that's how you build trust and get good results.
Definitely. And this goes beyond just individual interactions, too. We need to raise awareness about kidney health in general, focus on early detection, and encourage healthy habits. That's how we can make a real difference for everyone.
It's a multi-pronged approach, empowering individuals, advancing technology, promoting community health. It's pretty incredible how PD has become more than just a treatment. It's sparked a whole movement in how we think about kidney care.
It really does show us how healthcare is changing. It's becoming more patient-centered, more personalized, and we're starting to understand the connection between physical health, emotional health, and social well-being. It's all connected.
That's so true. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, is there one final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I'd encourage everyone to think about their own health journey. What can you do to be more proactive? How can you make sure your voice is heard in the healthcare system? These are questions we should all be asking ourselves no matter what our health is like right now.
That's a powerful message. It's a reminder that we're all in this together. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into peritoneal dialysis. I hope everyone listening has gained a better understanding of this amazing treatment and what it means for the future of kidney care.